I never imagined that a brand could rise from ashes to become an inspiration for millions. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started with a simple email subject line that made my heart race. "We're sorry to inform you the world around me blurred." Sounds muffled into oblivion. My hands trembled as I held the screen, numb to the words that screamed back at me. It was over. Just like that. I had poured my soul into this brand. My vision, my dreams. At its peak, it felt like I was walking on clouds. The laughter of the team echoed in my mind. We celebrated the victory's small milestones that felt monumental. We were a family, a patchwork of backgrounds, dreams, and fears. We stood together, shoulder to shoulder, eyes shining with hope. All of it was gone now. I looked around my empty office, cluttered with remnants of ideas and echoes of dreams. The silence was deafening. The photo of us on the wall smiled back, a reminder of better days. I pressed a hand against my chest, feeling the weight of despair sitting like a lead balloon. I could almost hear the whispers of me friends, my family, counting on me. "You've got this," they'd say with unwavering faith. But how could I face them now? Behind the scenes it was chaos. The market crashed. Surprises lurked around every corner. Competitors swooped in like vultures, feasting on the remnants of our glory. I never anticipated betrayal would come disguised in the form of an investor or a motherly figure who promised guidance but left scars deeper than I could have imagined. The betrayal was bitter, a poison seeping into every fiber of my being. Think, I urged myself, pacing the floor. My mind was a whirlwind of what-ifs and whys. Just then, a strange sound echoed from my demo room, a clattering of items sliding off the desk. I froze, heart racing. What if this was a sign? Was the universe talking to me? I rushed in, only to find a tape recorder blinking back at me. I hadn't even known we had one. I pressed play. Silence hung, thick with anticipation. Then, a voice echoed, one I thought I'd lost. It was a recording of a brainstorming session, our laughs punctuating serious talk. It wasn't just laughter. It was hope, rising above the ashes. My throat tightened. A sudden spark ignited within me. The world had thrown me down, but I could get back up. The thrill of inspiration rushed through my veins, mingling with fear and uncertainty. But could I really rebuild? Could I rise from the ashes? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The week dragged on, each day stretching into an endless cycle of revisiting old dreams and new doubts. I spent hours collecting the pieces of my shattered vision, a relentless process of rummaging through documents, photos, and memories that seemed stitched into my very identity. My coffee ran cold, and shadows crept across my desk. But I persisted, buoyed by the flicker of hope ignited by that tape recorder. As daylight began to fade, the familiar pang of loneliness settled in. I longed for the camaraderie we once shared, collective strengths forged through tribulation. I reached out to the people I had let down, one by one, due to the betrayal that had rocked our foundation. Regret clung to me like a second skin, but vulnerability pushed me onward, and soon my phone buzzed with replies. Some were sympathetic, others tinged with bitterness, but all carried a weight, the gravity of shared experiences. Then came a message that made my heart skip. Clara, our team's creative lead, wanted to meet. My fingers trembled as I typed a response, excitement and dread swirling together like a tempest. Clara was a bright light in our community, a resilient spirit who often reminded us to dream big. If anyone could see the potential in devastation, it was her. When the day arrived, I waited anxiously in a cozy cafe, replaying 1,000 scenarios in my mind. Clara arrived, her radiant smile cutting through the gray of my uncertainty. We embraced, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt the warmth of genuine support. "I missed you," she said softly, taking a seat across from me. Her gaze was steady, holding the weight of encouragement. We all did. Tears threatened to spill as I recounted my experience of that fateful email, the ensuing chaos, and the betrayal that had become our new normal. Clara listened, her eyes never wavering. When I finally finished, she took a moment to absorb my words before her expression shifted with an intensity one had missed. "I believe in you," she began, her tone resolute. "And I believe in what we built together." It wasn't just a brand. It was a Visiona community. And communities don't just fade away. The conversation flowed as we began to sketch ideas on napkins, transforming our pain into something tangible. A flicker of revival ignited between us, and thoughts tumbled forth. How could we reach others? What could we create that transcended our downfall? As I left the cafe, the chill in the air held a promise of change. We had a plan to draft a new approach, a raw, honest take on our journey that could resonate with others who felt lost. But as I walked down the street, my heart felt heavy with the thought of failure looming in the distance. What if we couldn't make it work? The next few days were a whirlwind of late-night brainstorming sessions, calls with former team members, and an impromptu gathering to share our collective vision. I couldn't help but notice the kindness that blossomed around me as friends began to step back in, offering support in their own ways. An old mentor sent a pep talk, a fellow entrepreneur reached out with advice, and even strangers offered words of encouragement on social media. Yet just as hope began to swell, the landscape shifted ominously. One evening, as I was about to fall asleep, I received an anonymous email. My heart raced as I opened it, only to be hit with a wave of confusion. There were details about our downfall, but they were skewed, twisted. Whispers of scandal, of misconduct, were being woven into our narrative, shaming our name even further. The sender's identity remained cloaked in shadows that I felt as if the ground had been ripped from underneath me. Panic surged through my veins as I recalled the faces of my friends, the sacrifices, the dreams. We were fighting to rise, only to be thrust back into the ashes by what felt like a malicious force. What did this mean? Who was behind this dark attempt to bury our hopes? I felt exposed, my vulnerability twisted into a weapon against me. Just as I closed my laptop, a buzz interrupted my thoughts. It was Clara. Again. "Let's meet. I have a lead on who might be behind the email," she texted. My heart raced for different reasons now. Could this be the key to the truth, or just another layer to the web of despair that surrounded us? I swallowed hard, knowing I had to face the storm. Forward was the only path I could take. The night was starless as I prepared to meet Clara again, a resolute look on my face shadowed by uncertainty. Was I ready for what lay ahead? The end of this chapter felt tantalizingly close, but it was just a bend in the road. How would this confrontation redefine everything we had fought for? The cafe was lit warmly, but the moment I entered, an unnerving chill nestled in my chest. Clara sat at our usual table, her expression a mix of determination and apprehension. The flickering candlelight danced on her features, casting a soft glow that made her seem almost ethereal. As I approached, a sense of urgency filled the air. "I've been piecing things together," she began, her voice low but steady. "I managed to trace the email's IP address back to a server that's linked to some people we know." My breath caught in my throat. The weight of her words pressed down, like an enormous boulder threatening to crush the fragile hope we had nurtured. "Who?" I asked, my own voice trembling. "Jake and Emma," she replied, her gaze unwavering. "I can't believe it. They were always jealous of our success, but I never thought they'd go this far." Jake and Emma had been part of our team before the fallout. They left under strained circumstances, personal matters exacerbated by workplace pressures. I remembered long nights spent collaborating with them, but now those memories felt tainted. The disbelief in my thoughts melted into something sharper. Betrayal. "How do we respond?" I whispered, fighting the panic rising in me. This could ruin everything. Clara reached across the table, her hand warm against mine. "We expose the truth. We tell our story honestly and decisively. But first, we need proof. Hope and fear twined inside me like vines strangling a sapling. But if they find out we're investigating them, the threat of further sabotage loomed over us. This solitary fight was shifting into something darker, and I found myself wondering if we were truly ready to stand against those we once considered friends. Then we need to work fast, Clara stated, her tone leaving no room for doubt. The determination in her eyes sparked something within me. Yes, we could do this. This could be our moment to rise, not just as a brand but as champions of our own narrative. Yet beneath my resolve lay a gnawing doubt. What if Clara was right? What if unveiling the truth only unraveled us further? The stakes felt higher than ever, and beneath the surface, an undertow of fear threatened to drag me under as we strategized. I caught glimpses of encouragement scattered throughout my life. Texts from friends, comments from social media, each one reigniting a flicker of courage. In the midst of darkness, kindness spoke, reminding me we weren't facing this alone. When the meeting ended, our plans solidified like the contours of an intricate puzzle. Together, we would confront the shadows that threatened to consume us. Yet just as I walked towards the cafe door, something shifted within me. What if they're planning something else? I turned to Clara, unable to shake the feeling. What if they're not finished? A shadow passed over her expression, a fleeting look of concern. Well, be prepared. We have to be. As I stepped outside, a sudden gust of wind rustled through the air, pulling at my thoughts with its ferocity. The night felt heavier now, laden with uncertainty. But I pushed those feelings aside, letting determination take root. It was too late to turn back. The following days blurred together in a frenetic dance. We gathered evidence, attempted to corner the truth, and connected with contacts who might share insight. Yet amidst the exhilarating momentum, my threads of doubt tightened, whispering menacing questions in the quiet moments. Then, it happened. As I prepared to leave for another meeting, my phone buzzed with a notification. Clara's name popped up, my heart raced. But as I opened the message, an icy chill washed over me. I have something urgent to show you. Meet me at the old office. Now that my heart thundered in my chest as I replayed our plan. The old office was abandoned, a relic of our former glory. Why there? A surge of dread coursed through me. This felt off. I arrived, the echoes of our laughter haunting the empty halls. With each footstep, my gut twisted tighter. When I reached the meeting room, Clara stood there, her expression stricken. This wasn't what I expected, she began. But her voice trailed off as her eyes widened. What is it? I pressed, a sense of urgency mounting. Before she could answer, my phone buzzed again. Another email, this one titled The Final Exposé. My heart dropped as I recognized the sender. It was signed with a name I had hoped never to see again. The Whisperer. My breath caught, a terrible realization dawning on me as anxiety gripped my throat. What had I stepped into? I turned back to Clara, but it was too late. The strings of our reality twisted ominously, and I realized I may have opened a door we could never close. In that moment, I knew our fight for redemption was no longer just about a brand, it had become a battle for our very lives. The quiet of the abandoned office enveloped us like a shroud, the dust motes dancing in the dim light overhead. Clara's eyes were wide with fear, mirroring the tumult inside me. The stillness felt heavy, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling in my mind. I had never thought that our pursuit of truth would lead us to such an unforgiving place. What did you find? I urged, stepping closer, needing her strength to infuse me with the courage I felt slipping through my fingers. But she glanced away, her brow furrowed, and I knew she was grappling with something monumental. It's about Jake and Emma, she finally whispered, her voice trembling. There's evidence they've partnered with someone else. Who? I pressed, the urgency quickening my pulse. Her fingers trembled as she pulled out her phone. This, she said, sliding the screen to me. It showed a video call. The fuzzy image of Emma appeared, flanked by someone I recognized instantly. Ryan, I breathed. The former colleague had left before we did, stepping away to chase a bigger paycheck elsewhere. Not once had I thought he would be involved. My heart raced as realization crashed over me. His wasn't just personal. They were forming a coalition, a conspiracy aimed at dismantling everything we had built. "This is bigger than us," Clara said, her voice breaking slightly, as if acknowledging that fragile truth could shatter everything we had fought for. "They're creating a narrative to take us down. They aim to use our own story against us, to frame us as the villains." That I shook my head. "People know us. They trust us. We can't let them twist it." "Can we?" she replied softly, vulnerability lacing her voice. "How do we combat such cold deceit? They're fighting not just to win, but to annihilate." Each passing moment seemed to thicken the air around us, the stakes rising like the tide ready to engulf us entirely. I could feel the waves of doubt crashing over my decisions, but I clenched my fists, determination rising like a phoenix within. "Clara, we need to get ahead of this," I insisted, the clarity of urgency sharpening my focus. "We need to go public before they do. If we tell our side first, we can shape the narrative." "What if it backfires?" she said, her gaze locking onto mine with raw intensity. "What if they retaliate?" "Then we'll be ready," I vowed, the conviction surging through me like fire. "We won't give in to fear. I refuse to go down without a fight." As I spoke, a flicker of hope ignited between us, a transient spark that momentarily pushed back the encroaching darkness. But deep down, I was acutely aware that every action we took could either set us free or shackle us deeper into peril. Before we could formulate our next move, my phone buzzed ominously again. This time it was a text from Jake. "You've stirred the pot, haven't you? I hope you're prepared for what's coming." A knot tightened in my stomach. The playful tone belied the threat beneath. "What do we do?" Clara asked, vulnerability creeping back into her voice. I stepped closer to her, forcing her to meet my gaze. "We stay vigilant. We have to work faster than they think. We'll gather our evidence and hit back." But just before I could finish, sounds echoed through the corridor, soft whispers, familiar and unsettling. Footsteps approached, heavy and deliberate. "Clara, I started, my instinct screaming for us to hide, to leave this place." But before I could finish, the door swung open, revealing a shadowy figure that stole the breath from my lungs. "Thought you could do this without us?" It was Emma, a smirk plastered on her face, and behind her loomed Jake, flanked by Ryan. The trap had been set, a web we had unwittingly walked right into. "Welcome back to the office, you two," Emma sneered, eyes glinting with confident malice. "I hope you like surprises." In that instant, the walls seemed to cave in, the very air filled with an electric tension. Uncertainty swirled around us, and I instinctively took a step back, my pulse racing. "Run," I whispered to Clara, but her gaze was locked onto Emma, a fire igniting in her eyes. "We're not going anywhere," Clara said, stepping forward instead, her voice stronger now, tinged with defiance. "This is our story, and we refuse to let you tell it for us. We will fight for every bit of truth." But as she spoke those resolute words, I felt another wave of dread crash over me. Would that courage turn to folly? Or could we tap into a strength we never knew we had? The moment hung suspended in time, fraught with tension and unexpected stakes. Our lives had intertwined beneath dark clouds, and in the depths of betrayal, I could only wonder, had we walked into the trap willingly, believing we could rise from the ashes? The shadows loomed, tense with a palpable danger that swirled around us, heavy enough to suffocate. Emma's smile was a mask for something darker, an unsettling victory that pushed against the walls of our resolve. Behind her, Jake surveyed us with a territorial arrogance, while Ryan stood like a sentinel, his arms crossed, lips twisted into an uncharacteristic sneer. "Do you really think this is what people want to hear?" Emma's voice dripped with mockery as she pointed towards Clara and me. "A tragic tale of betrayal? Please, they just want the drama, the blood on the floor." "Emma, maybe you should look in the mirror and ask yourself why you're so willing to drown people just to get ahead," Clara shot back, her voice steady despite the storm brewing around us. "Because people like you are too afraid to get your hands dirty," Emma retorted. "You think you're the heroes, but you're nothing more than a footnote to my story." That I felt the sensation of panic creeping in, a burst of adrenaline urging me to react. No one will believe your version, I claimed, struggling to hold onto that slender thread of hope. Our supporters know who we are. They know our truths. And what truth would that be? Jake interrupted, his scornful laughter echoing through the empty office. That you're a pair of wannabe martyrs? The truth is, they'll believe what we tell them because that's how it's always been. Control the story. Control the people. Clara stepped closer to me, her chin tilting upward defiantly. The vulnerability was still there, but there was resolve too. We're not afraid to show our real selves. We're not going to allow you to paint us as villains just because you're scared of what might come next. In that fleeting moment, I felt the shift clinging to valiance amid the chaos. But just as quickly, the weight of reality crashed down on me. What if Clara was wrong? What if we were about to lose everything? Emma's eyes sparkled with malice as she replied, "How noble of you. But bravery only matters if the audience is watching." She turned, her manicured finger gesturing dramatically toward Ryan. "You know what happens next, don't you? You'll be left a whisper in the wind when the truth of those callous decisions you've made get out." Ryan stepped forward, a cold smirk on his lips. "I suggest you brace yourselves. You're so wrapped up in your righteousness that you don't even see the game we're playing. You're just pawns on the board, and this round is mine." The air felt electric, charged with an energy I couldn't ignore. Panic bubbled under my skin, and I caught Clara's eye, trying to convey the urgency of the moment, an urgency to act, to escape, to reclaim our narrative before it slipped through our fingers like sand. But she remained determined, her expression unwavering. Suddenly, from behind Ryan, a muffled voice cut through the tension. "Wait." A young woman stood there, barely out of her teens, her expression a mixture of fear and confusion. "Why are you doing this?" The unexpected entrance took everyone, including me, by surprise. "Who are you?" Emma snapped, her power momentarily broken. "I am Lily," she said hesitantly, glancing from us to them, her voice quavering. "I thought you were going to tell the truth. You said you were fighting for something real." Her presence painted an innocent, fragile picture against the backdrop of strife. The weight of the moment bore down on me, and I sensed a profound meaning in her words. She was someone we could fight for, someone who didn't want to be just a story. Is this your idea of a story worth telling? She continued, her gaze now leveled on Emma. "Because it feels more like a horror movie." That Emma's countenance shifted from ruthless to startled, caught momentarily off guard. "Lily, this isn't a game for you to understand," Jake barked, irritation lacing his words. Yet there was something almost imperceptible in his tone, a crack in the veneer. Clara stepped forward, empathy flooding her eyes. "This isn't what any of us signed up for. It shouldn't be about us versus you. It should be about finding the truth that matters. You," Ryan spat, reclaiming the power, "should be careful who you align yourself with. This girl is in over her head." But Lily stood firm, a flicker of bravery igniting behind her wide eyes. "No, I'm not. I can see that both sides need to hear what's really going on. That's not your decision to make," Emma snapped, her irritation morphing into a veiled threat. "You're just a spectator in a playing field you didn't create." As tensions mounted, I felt my stomach twist. What if the very words of clarity this innocent girl spoke fell on deaf ears? We were drowning in an ocean of manipulation and deceit, and now it was about to get worse, much worse. "That I won't stand by," Lily said defiantly. "I refuse to let your lies become my truth." And with that, she did something I could never have anticipated. She reached for her own phone, her fingers shaking slightly as she hit record. The swift realization of what she intended to do sank deep into the pit of my stomach, both a glimmer of hope and an impending disaster all at once. "Lily, wait." I struggled to shout, but the words were glued in my throat. The repercussions of her actions flashed before me like a beacon, an assault on Emma, Jake, and Ryan's fragile game of deception, but also a desperate plea that could very well turn them against us. The microphone in her pocket hummed with anticipation, capturing everything. And in that split second, everything shifted. The danger of exposure hung in the air, boundless and terrifying, and the question rang clear. Would we harness this moment of truth, or would it be our crumbling downfall? No longer were we merely players of a game. We were teetering at the edge of catastrophe, dangling over the precipice of irrevocable change. Lily's next words could either condemn us or help us rise from these ashes. But standing there, the choice was beyond our reach. The storm had broken, and I could feel the winds of fate howling all around us. The camera's tiny red light blinked on, the soft whirring of the recording device echoing in the charged silence. Time stretched as every eye landed on Lily, her voice firm yet trembling. "I'm about to reveal who you really are. Everyone deserves to know the truth." Jake edged forward, a ruthless glint of rage lighting his eyes. "You think your little video is going to change anything? You're only making things worse for yourself." While panic coursed through me, Clara took a step back, searching for the right words. "Lily, you don't understand what you're getting into," she pleaded, her voice tinged with concern. "Then help me understand," Lily shouted, her frustration palpable. "Help me understand why truth has become a weapon." In that moment, I saw the spark of a shared humanity flicker in Emma's eyes like a brief reprieve from the shadows of her calculating ambition. "You think truth is so simple?" she questioned, her bravado slightly faltering. "Most people don't want to hear it, much less live it." Lily took a deep breath, as if grounding herself in the storm surrounding her. "But the truth matters. It matters to everyone who looks up to you, to everyone who is hurting right now. Those people need to know they're not alone." A sentiment worthy of a fairy tale. Ryan sneered, his air of superiority unyielding, but I sensed uncertainty brewing beneath his facade. The tension spiraled as I glanced at Clara, who was considering the widening divide. Could we turn this encounter into a platform for hope? Or were we mere pawns in a treacherous game that left truth as our casualty? "Lily," I finally breathed, breaking through the chaos. "You're brave. But bravery without support can be as dangerous as cowardice." I stepped toward her, my heart hammering, simultaneously terrified and inspired by what she represented. "But your heart is in the right place. We can all fight for truth, but we need to do it smart." As I spoke, Emma's expression hardened, her control slipping through her fingers. "Enough!" she shouted, shaking her head as if cleansing herself of doubt. "You're all just making this more chaotic. The crowd thrives on conflict. You all want to play the martyr, but that only feeds the fire. People don't just want drama, Emma," Clara countered, gathering strength from my words. "They want authenticity. We can show them what it means to be real, to be flawed, to be united against the very thing that divides us." There was a flicker of understanding in Lily's eyes as she held her phone tighter. "They'll keep filming," she declared, her resolve emboldened by our shared voices. "But I won't just film you as villains. I want to capture this moment where everything can change, where we can all choose a side consciously. Aside." Jake scoffed, and I could see the contempt in his features coalesce into something darker. "This isn't a game. This is survival. You think they want to hear about how you care? They want to see the downfall of the bad guys. You're no better than anyone here." "Maybe not," Lily admitted, "but I don't want to be part of the destruction. I want to be part of the change. If you film this, you'll be painting a target on your back," Ryan warned, venom lacing his words. "This is no playground. You're asking for trouble, little girl." But Lily stood firm, the light of determination illuminating her features. Sensing the stakes rising with each exchanged word, I couldn't shake the sensation that our enemy might be crumbling, not giving way, but shaking in uncertainty. "Do you really think you can intimidate me into silence?" she asked, her voice steady despite the danger looming overhead. "This is about more than just you. It's what comes next." Beneath that brave exterior, I could see the fear bubbling in her chest. This was a dark path riddled with treachery. As the atmosphere thickened with tension, I felt more than just the palpable danger. We were on a precipice now, exposed and raw. And then, just as the room felt on the brink of shattering, a figure emerged from the corner, drawing our collective attention. To my shock, it was Mark, a former ally turned whistleblower whose defection had rattled our ranks months ago. "I couldn't just stand by anymore," he said softly, his voice unforeseen but powerful. "Lily is right. This isn't about you versus them. This is about us and the truth we need to reclaim." caught between the rising conflict and unexpected solidarity. My heart raced. Would Mark's plea drown us all in betrayal, or could it unearth a far deeper strength amidst our turmoil? But before I could process the ramifications of his words, I heard an unmistakable sound, a siren in the distance, growing louder as it approached. My stomach dropped. This was real. The world was coming for us, and I felt the weight of that urgency in my bones. Just then, I turned to Lily, her courage bright amidst the chaos. "What if we don't have much time?" I whispered, the fear escalating with every second ticking away. And as the reality of our uncertain fate settled in, I could feel the immensity of the choice pressing down upon us. We could either lean into the storm, hold hands in this vulnerability, or let it swallow us whole. The sirens blared louder, and as I glanced back at angry faces converging around me, I knew one thing for sure. The truth was closer than it had ever been, but so were the repercussions. With every heartbeat, the tension wound tighter, and I realized we were about to break one way or another. A chilling electric hum filled the air as the siren grew even nearer, intertwining with the raw emotions thrumming in the room. I felt as if the walls were closing in, each heartbeat echoing a painful reminder of what was at stake. Lily's determination sparkled like a flickering candle in a tempest. The moment was crucial, but uncertainty pulsed through our vulnerability like a live wire. Mark's presence, both unsettling and grounding, seemed to radiate a wave of reckoning. "I risked everything to speak the truth once," he said, taking a few steps forward, eyes flickering between Lily and the others. "But this time we can do better. We can bring the light to the shadows that have engulfed us." "What do you want?" Jake snarled, every ounce of his demeanor exuding aggression as he took a threatening step towards Mark. "Not what you think." Mark's voice shook but didn't falter. "This isn't an attack. It's a call for unity. The truth doesn't divide. It heals. We can channel it into something meaningful." Lily, buoyed by the might of Mark's words, steadied herself. "If we're going to face the world, we can't fight one another. We need to show them how to build something better out of this chaos." Her voice rose over the impending fear as she turned her phone towards us again. "Help me capture this moment, this choice." Yet still doubt wafted in the air like a thick fog. Clara, ever the planner, narrowed her eyes. "Lily, are you certain everyone here will stand for that? Not everyone wants change. Some want chaos to reign. The danger is immense if we sit exposed." "What's the alternative? Bow to fear?" Lily shot back. "If we let fear silence us, what's left? We become what we fear. But if we stand together, we spark hope, even if it's just a flicker." At that moment, the siren blared even louder, casting a shadow over the fragile sense of hope she had stirred. "We need to move," I exclaimed, my heart racing, "before they descend like a pack of wolves." But as everyone moved in a frenzy, Mark took one last look at the confused, pained faces around us. "You either join me in seeking the truth or choose the corruption that festers in the darkness. We can make an impact, but you must choose quickly." With tension thick as molasses, Ryan scoffed but didn't look away, uncertainty lining his features. "You think we will trust you again, Mark?" His voice wavered slightly. "You've betrayed us before." Yet odd, small undercurrents of dissent emerged, whispers among even Jake's enforcers. I saw it there, the flicker of something questioned just directed at Mark, but at themselves. The awful sound of footsteps on the pavement rang closer. "We're being cornered," Clara interjected, her voice a taut wire. "We have to decide." Before I could clarify, the sharp clang of a door being kicked open rattled through the air, causing us all to jump. My pulse quickened as I looked toward the sound and found an intimidating figure rushing into the room. It was Detective Hargrove, a familiar face whose reputation preceded him. He fixed his steely gaze on the group, lingering on Lily before a sinister smile creased his lips. "How quaint. Gathering evidence against yourselves? I must applaud the bravery. Why are you here?" Clara quickly asked, her inherent shrewdness glinting in her gaze. "Curiosity, dear Clara. This unraveling is simply delectable. But I'm afraid chaos brings consequences," he replied, sliding a threatening look toward Lily. Make your choice, but know that actions have repercussions. I've come to deliver justice. My stomach churned at the weight of his words. Justice. That word alone felt like a transparent veil over the horrors that often followed. The very law that was meant to protect could easily turn into a weapon aimed at you as I felt a rush of air carry the weight of our impending fate. Lily stood tall, her courage igniting the atmosphere like a beacon in a dark storm. No matter what you say, this is our moment. We won't be silenced or caged anymore. With that, her phone continued recording, capturing a spirit unyielding against the avalanche of despair. Yet even as frail hope surged through me, dread coiled around my heart. If we pressed on, fully embracing who we were and what we believed, we could either rise like a phoenix or burn into ashes. But the looming threat of detection, betrayal, and the fear of losing everything danced nervously in the background, prickling my skin. Just as the monologue of hesitation whirled in my mind, I caught eyes with Mark again. There was a mix of desperation and conviction swirling in his gaze, igniting a chilling realization deep within me. What if, in the quest for truth, we were not prepared to face the consequences? Yet, even more terrifying, what if the choice we made was one we could never take back? Before I could voice my concerns, the moment cracked and splintered like glass shattering. Detective Hargrove lunged forward, gripping Lily's phone, the chaos erupting around us as everything spiraled out of control, leaving us gasping for what was left of our fragile hope. The clash of chaos erupted, reverberating through the very foundation of our convictions. My heart plummeted as Mark's voice rose above the fray, filled with a fierce resolve that made my skin bristle. No, don't let him take that from you, Lily. As Hargrove tightened his grip, Lily's eyes narrowed, a wild flicker dancing behind them. Release it. This is our truth, she spat, fear entwined with the courage that propelled her forward. But Hargrove only chuckled darkly, his face near a mask of villainy. Truth? You think your chosen narrative stands a chance against the reality I can unravel? As he yanked the phone away, time froze for a fleeting moment. I felt every shared heartbeat, the tangled emotions weaving through our shared plight like a frantic symphony. Just then, Clara surged forward, a primal instinct igniting the latent bravery in her. You don't have to do this. You're not the law here. Her voice trembled through the tension, vulnerability layered with an unexpected ferocity. I thought I saw a spark of doubt flicker in Hargrove's eyes, a fleeting moment that exposed the cracks in his facade. I am the law, and here my word is truth, he countered, as if his conviction could shake loose our unyielding resolve. But before he could react, Jake, who had been caught in his own storm of emotions, stepped beside Clara. You can't just bully us anymore. We're done cowering. The defiance in his voice cut through the timbre of the room like sunlight piercing my breath caught as Ryan joined them, a testament to the unexpected solidarity forming among us. Together we take a stand. No more lies. No more manipulation. His voice held a trembling valor, and I realized that maybe, just maybe, we weren't alone in this fight. In this fractured moment, something shifted. With every hand reaching out, every face reflecting an echo of newfound courage, we were remaking ourselves not just survivors but potential warriors in a volatile battle for our narrative. Yet, amid that rising tide of hope stood Hargrove, an imposing shadow. You're all foolish. I will not hesitate to do what must be done to silence you. He stepped back, tightening his grip on Lily's phone, as if it were the very source of life for us. After a long moment, the fear of lost voices hung over us like an ominous cloud. I felt the weight of it pressing against me, propelled by the uncertainty of what came next. I glanced at Mark, whose eyes mirrored the storm raging in my chest. We both understood what losing this battle meant, not just for us, but for everyone shrouded in silence. We have to act. Now, Mark whispered under his breath, knitting his brows in a blend of panic and determination. Every shared heartbeat seemed to synchronize with the desperate thrum of resolve rising within me. Suddenly, a crackling sound erupted like lightning through the air, a voice from afar, deep and commanding, channeled through a distant megaphone, jolting us all. This is the police. We have been alerted to a disturbance. All parties are to come out with hands raised. Panic filtered through the room, igniting an exodus of fear. Hargrove's eyes widened, snapping back to reality like a hunter cornered. "Don't you dare move," he barked, brandishing the phone like a weapon. Yet a rift of uncertainty brewed beneath his bravado, the amoebic whispers of chaos around us becoming a wave that forced him to realize we weren't mere pawns. In that moment, clarity struck me. "Lily, the footage," I shouted, my voice cutting through the whirlwind. This is our chance. We can show the world what he is, what they've done." Her lips parted as if the weight of that revelation anchored her briefly, but time was running thin. The loud, threatening sounds of approaching sirens grew ever closer, clarity merging with fear, twisting around our uncertain fates. "If we can't hold on to it, we have to find a way to show it," Jake insisted, dreaming a path toward resistance, even as the menace of aversion clawed at our throats. "Together," Mark echoed, eyes blazing with a fire that urged us onward. A sudden surge of collective momentum rose. Among us, hearts beating as one pulse against the stranglehold of fear. Before I could second-guess ourselves, we surged forward. It wasn't just a fight for that phony, it was a fight for our voices. And just as Detective Hargrove swung the phone toward the door, I felt the warmth of unexpected hands clamping down on my shoulders. I turned, eyes widening as I recognized Clara's brother, a boy who had walked a delicate line between loyalty and estrangement. "I heard everything. You're not alone," he said softly, the vulnerability in his eyes echoing a bond emboldened by solidarity. Not just among friends, but within family too, and that heartbeat of realization. The truth cut deeper than the law, carving through the darkness and illuminating fresh resolve. Before we could act further, though, Detective Hargrove pressed himself against the exit. The sirens loomed closer, and I knew the time for hesitation was over. "No more shadows," I whispered fiercely, the moment hanging between desperation and hope. But just as I lunged forward, a blinding light burst through every window. The police had arrived, and with their presence, a mask slipped from Hargrove's face, revealing something altogether more dreadful. Fear twisted into a diabolical intent. "You think this is over?" he shouted, his voice twisted like a jagged knife in the air. All eyes turned toward him, a collective gasp echoing through us. But as panic threatened to drown our moment of unity, I realized with dread that our choice had just begun to unravel. The storm had only just begun to rage. The clamor of sirens was deafening now, a chorus of authority surging toward us, but it was Hargrove's menacing laughter that echoed in my ears, low, dangerous, and utterly sinister. "You think they can save you? The truth will come out eventually, but not in the way you think," he spat, eyes glinting with malicious glee. Time hung suspended as a chilling realization sunk in. It wasn't just the battle for the phone or the footage. It was the fight for our very identities, our voices against a system that stifled dissent. Clara trembled beside me, disbelief woven into the fabric of her features. The air thickened with our shared anxiety, yet it crackled with anticipation, the last desperate breaths of defiance before something had to give. "Stay together," Mark shouted, fixing his gaze on the fragile unity forming amongst us, his voice a fragile thread holding us together. I could see the resolve in his eyes, the determined glimmer of someone who had fought battles before, even if not like this. Just then, a new face emerged through the doorway, a tall figure in uniform, flanked by flashlights piercing through the darkness. The police had arrived, but not yet in control. "Now, everyone step away from the door," the officer barked. My heart raced. They were just outside, a breath away from possibly misunderstanding everything. Hargrove's sneer deepened. He stood like a fortress, barricading the truth that held us hostage. "You think you can take me in? You don't know who you're dealing with," he retorted, daring those behind him to fully engage. I could sense something feral lurking beneath his bravado, something he feared more than the police themselves. Clara, trembling at my side, stepped forward, trembling with a mixture of fear and courage. "They're not afraid of you anymore, Hargrove," she shouted, her voice steadier than I felt. Arcane memories of our times together flooded back as I watched her, how she had always been the brave one, even when our situations seemed hopeless. "You've lost your grip on us." But as her voice cut through the heavy air, the tension ratcheted up a notch. Hargrove's eyes flared with fury, tongue darting to moisten his lips. You think your friends can protect you? If the police find the video, they'll make sure they make an example out of all of you. A shudder passed through the group. His words resonated with a familiar fear, one that had silenced us for more nights than I could count. But beneath that fear, I felt a flickering ember of courage ignite. We had to confront him, to resist the darkness he had tried to place over us. Through the anxiety, I caught Clara's brother's eye. We can trust them, I said, the conviction in my voice surprising even me. They have to listen. They have to care. Desperation hung in my words. It was our only chance. But just as I prepared to barge past Hargrove into the light of the police, the officer shouted, "Everyone stay put. You in the suit, let go of the phone." Hargrove's teeth ground together, embodying the tension that had followed us all this way. I felt the weight of our collective breaths hanging like a fragile thread. "You think you can stop me? I've got everything under control." He spat, but the cracks in his facade were widening. Determined not to let Hargrove's fear tactics suffocate our resolve, I shouted again. "He's manipulating you. We need to show you what's really been happening." My voice cracked with emotion, the heat of my plea cutting through the chaos. Hargrove lunged forward at that moment, not at the police, but at Lily. A flash of horror shot through me as I saw him reach for the phone, his realization dawning that its power was slipping away. I charged forward, propelled by an instinct that felt both natural and raw. "Lily!" I cried out, dread swelling inside me. Time seemed to curl around the moment as she clutched the phone defensively, a shield against the impending storm. We had confronted a monster for the first time, but his retaliatory nature threatened to unravel everything. I felt Clara's hand grip mine tightly, a silent promise of solidarity amidst the impending fallout. Then came a gasp, more like a wail, as Hargrove struggled to force the phone from Lily's grasp. The chaotic energy spiraled, charging the air as I caught those shadows clustered in the corners. The fragments of our collective trauma displayed before us as if laid bare on the precipice of revelation. Suddenly, I heard a strangled voice from the crowd. "Help her! Somebody!" The words acted like a talisman. They unraveled any fear still clinging to my heart. Could it really be a call for us to break free? I felt it. An invisible thread connecting us, the kind that could shatter Hargrove's control if severed at just the right moment. But before I could act, the voice from the megaphone boomed again. "Detective Hargrove, step away from the girl. This is your last warning." In that chaotic moment, despair morphed into that flicker of hope as the sirens thrummed in unison, with our heartbeat it reverberated through our despair, filling the room with a sense of inevitable reckoning. We fought not only for ourselves but for the very essence of truth that had strived to rise amidst the ashes of our haunted existence. Then, unexpectedly, my phone buzzed urgently in my pocket, an alarming vibration wrenching me from the chaos. I pulled it out and looked at the screen. A new message, one that turned my stomach cold. It was from my mother, a simple line that sent a surge of dread coursing through me. "They know everything." The world narrowed to the point of that notification, an unnerving cliffhanger looming above us like a dark storm cloud. Had we played into a larger game than we realized? As I stood frozen by the revelation, I watched as Hargrove smirked, a man resurrected with power he thought was his, just as I realized the depths of the struggle we had yet to face. The chaos erupted around us like a volcano, trembling with unresolved tension. I stood rooted in place, the notification from my mother playing on a vicious loop in my mind. A mere text, one I had read 100 times, which felt as if it contained all the weight of the world, the crashing acknowledgement that we were entangled in something much larger than ourselves. But just as the despair threatened to drown me, I felt Clara's grip tighten around my hand. It was a life raft, tethering me to the reality of our shared struggle. "We are in this together," Clara whispered, her voice rising above the cacophony enveloping us. The atmosphere crackled with fear, but there was also an unwavering unity emerging, pulsing through our small group, refusing to yield to despair. With a sudden surge of adrenaline, I shifted my focus back to Hargrove and Lily at the center of the turmoil, wrapped in a chaotic wrestle over the phone, the ultimate conductor of our truth. "Let her go," I shouted, feeling a fierce rage rise inside me, echoing Clara's promise a heartbeat ago. Just as we had begun to reclaim our voices, now it felt like we were on the edge of losing everything again. Get back. Hargrove's warning was low and dangerous, his eyes darting around as if gauging his escape route. I had never seen such desperation masqueraded behind the facade of authority. How fragile his power truly was. The police were close now, the spotlight shifting dangerously toward our phantoms of betrayal. But we could use this, couldn't we? I knew I had to act, and fast. Everybody hold on to one another, I urged, rallying our small band against the roaring winds of fear. Just as I looked around, I noticed a flickering resolve igniting within us, not just the remnants of a team that had withstood tumultuous storms, but something greater. Lily's eyes flickered with the weight of determination, refusing to allow herself to be overtaken. This is our story, she cried out, the fire of her spirit igniting courage in all of us. I won't let it be taken away. Let go of the phone. Hargrove. With a heady mix of fear and courage, I surged forward. Everyone, we're not afraid of you anymore, I shouted, seeking to drown out his intimidation. Your manipulation will not win. My heartbeat surged as if it resonated with a unison of our voices, and suddenly, it all came together, a tapestry of defiance we were creating together in that very moment. Clara, Jake, even Ryan stood beside Lily, ready to fight. Stop! The desperation in Hargrove's voice caught us off guard as we closed in, a striking reminder that he felt cornered. A man whose power hinged on the suppression of others. You think numbers can shield you? Without the truth, you're nothing. I stepped forward, joining Clara and Lily as we formed an unyielding front. The truth has a way of coming to light, and there's nothing you can do to hold it back. My words rallied through us, each one infused with the passion of our shared history. Our fights turned fervent declarations against his tyranny as the sirens blared louder, echoing through the walls like trumpets announcing a long-foreseen fate. Hargrove's bravado began to crack. The eerie calm of the approaching police turned the tide. I saw hints of uncertainty dart behind his predatory gaze, and in that moment, I knew we had a chance. Together, we could claim our narrative even amid turmoil. In the distance, the officers emerged, stepping into the light of truth, their concern apparent as they surveyed the chaotic scene. They had come for justice, and now we could use that to our advantage. The realization felt like ice cutting through a thick fog. Had we really just taken that first step to reclaiming the power of our story? Everybody, speak, I urged, a choir of voices surging forth, the fear of both Hargrove and our own doubts still woven tightly, but yielding to something new. We are not the villains. We are the builders. Stop the oppression, Clara called, her voice ringing out among our rallying cries. Listen, we have proof, Jake shouted, pointing back to Lily with urgency, urging her to keep the phone steady before the chaos could consume us all. Watching as Hargrove shifted uncomfortably under the weight of our resistance. A brief silence enveloped us, thick with the anticipation of what this moment could unleash. Was this the moment we would finally break free from the bonds of manipulation? Just as I stepped closer to speak once more, the phone's recording blipped ominously. The world discovering our truth was upon us. Each person who had witnessed our journey echoed forward as one. The truth felt unstoppable. But suddenly, Hargrove's eyes lit up with a spark of menace. You think they'll believe you? They'll see you as the problem, as the ruckus, and a liability. His tone clawed at the edges of coherency, and I sensed the grave urgency in his words. But we held our ground. Together we were a force of nature, breaking through his rhetoric. Shout with us, I implored. Fear transformed into firm, unyielding strength. Truth is worth fighting for, Clara cried. Unity breeds strength. All of us erupted in response, igniting flames of solidarity that danced across the trembling room, the shadows of doubt melting away under the power of our chorus. In that moment the sirens, our voices, the clashes between heroism and betrayal, and the silence of fear all converged. We were carrying the weight of not only ourselves but everyone affected by the narratives twisted around us, echoing in every heartbeat as the police stormed into the room, demanding clarity and resolution. Hargrove's mask fell away, scrambling under the weight of the truth we bore. He couldn't hide behind the blurred lines of deception anymore. We were wrong, he screamed, shoving unceremoniously through the chaos surrounding us. You have no idea what you are doing. This is dangerous. But his warnings fell flat as our solidarity took center stage in the theater of conflict. Yet just as that final collective breath surged through us, there was one last unspeakable twist. Hargrove lunged toward my phone, determined to snatch the recording away, and as I turned to block him, something hard struck my side, knocked the breath from my lungs. Pain radiated through me as Hargrove had pushed against me, the last vestige of desperation in his manic attempts to hold onto power. But amidst the blaring alarms, the murmurs, and the chaos surrounding us, I couldn't break something held my spirit firm, something deeper than my own pain. With unexpected fortitude, I stumbled back, wrapping my arms around Clara. We've come too far to let the fear win. With one swift motion, I reeled back, issuing a powerful call to my teammates standing strong beside me. We were resounding echoes of a single truth, and if Hargrove could only see the unstoppable wave we had become, he would know we would not be silenced. And then the police swarmed around us, their authoritative presence erupting into the chaos, forcing Hargrove to retreat momentarily. I realized in that terrifying second that we had not only risen against the ashes of betrayal, we were reclaiming the fragments of our identity, a fervent call against darkness. Born anew in a triumphant union, and amongst the struggle, something beautiful unfolded between Yuzel, the shared pain, the dreams, and the journeys that had woven us together throughout this battlefield sparked a new understanding, a resolution that began to bloom. When I turned to Clara, her eyes glistened, brimming with hope, unleashed in the chaos. And then a moment struck, the light of understanding passed between us. This fight was ours, one not simply about rising from the ash pit, was about embracing the power of our truth as we transformed every hardship into an instrument of change. Forgiveness, I found myself whispering, isn't just about letting go. It's about the healing journey we share. We're not just fighting to clear our names, we're striving to build a better tomorrow. My voice quivered, each word gifted the weight of vulnerability become strength. That in that moment, I finally felt myself lifting from the weight of despair, from the loss that had once drowned met his time. I was standing among kindred spirits, powerful manifestations of resilience and hope, and as the police pulled Hargrove away, another sound echoed through the room, the stirring of faces coming together, a diverse collective soon realizing that our story had indeed come alive, fraught with difficulties but unfaltering in its purpose. Finally, the moment arrived, a calling crescendo echoing through the air, whispered softly, then rising towards the rafters until it became thunderous. We were all lifted together, soaring through the flames, finally united by the power of truth that runs deeper than any darkness that could attempt to quell us. Together, among the rubble and remnants of betrayal, we found the manifold strength to defy the scars. It was a promise binding every one of us, and as I took a breath in that golden moment, I understood that we were more than our hardships. We were the catalysts of change, and our resilience could ignite hearts anew. We were free no matter the shadows lurking beyond. We had risen, reborn in truth and connection, ready to share our story of forgiveness, unity, and hope. And so, beneath that resilient sky, as the sirens faded and the bright future loomed ahead, it became clear. We would forever stand in the light, hearts intertwined, harnessing every listenable echo of our truth. From the ashes of our past, we rose not just as survivors, but as shining beacons of possibility. Our story had only just begun, and we were ready to embrace the next chapter together. In the end, I realized that the greatest victory lies not in rising above, but in learning to lift one another as we soared, the warmth of our shared humanity emerging forever stronger than before. It was in the acceptance of what we had endured and the embrace of the bonds formed amidst the struggles that left me breathless with gratitude. After all, as I gazed at each brave soul beside me, I whispered softly into the wind, "We are not our past, and we will never be silenced again." And as the last note of hope soared above the skyline, I knew that together, we had become something greater than ourselves. A testament to survival, a celebration of finally rising, united in love's profound embrace.